We begin in San Francisco, 1981, where our protagonist, Chris Gardner, is trying to sell medical devices that no one seems to want. As part of his daily routine, he drops his son, Christopher, off at daycare before heading off on a marathon of hospital visits to convince doctors that his product isn't completely useless. Spoiler, they disagree. The big issue is that he needs to sell at least one device a month, and life is not going well. To make things worse, he has to ask his wife, Linda, to pick up their son, even though she's working double shifts. No wonder she asks him at dinner if he's paid the taxes yet. Chris, calm as ever, says he's going to request another extension, and then dinner is effectively over. Before we continue, I ask you to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to help me grow and motivate me to bring more videos like this. But moving on. The next day, Chris spots a guy in a fancy car and asks what he does for a living. The man reveals he's a stockbroker, and Chris, ever quick, comments that the guy must have studied a lot. But the man retorts, "You don't need a degree, just social and math skills." So basically, if you can add 2 plus 2 and have some charm, you're halfway there. Naturally, Chris decides to try his luck in this new world. He rushes to the brokerage firm, but in a move straight out of an 80s comedy, he entrusts his precious medical device to a street artist. And guess what? The artist disappears with it. Chris chases after the thief, and after a Ferris Bueller's Day Off style pursuit, he retrieves the device, only to find himself with 2 devices and an even angrier wife. Linda, clearly exhausted by life, says she's leaving. Chris tries to talk her out of it but ultimately agrees, as long as Christopher stays with him. Now, Chris is juggling fatherhood and his shot at becoming a broker. The scene that really stood out to me is when Chris takes a cab with Jay Twistle, the guy responsible for hiring brokers. Midway through the ride, he impresses Jay by solving a Rubik's Cube in record time. Genius, right? But not everything is roses. Jay leaves, sticking Chris with the cab fare. And, of course, Chris does what any sane person would do, he runs for the emergency exit. Now, leaving the device on the train? That's something I wouldn't do. But chasing after a dream, even without knowing if it'll work out? That's definitely something I'd do. Focus is everything. An interesting fact is that the real Chris Gardner makes a cameo at the end of the film, briefly crossing paths with Will Smith's character. It's one of those look, it's him moments, a little nod to viewers who followed his real life and fictional journey. If there's one thing that intrigues me about this story, it's Chris's resilience. The guy gets knocked down in every possible way, loses devices, almost loses his son, loses his wife, but keeps going. That's what fascinates me the most, how life can knock you down, but you still find the strength to get back up. And you? If you were in Chris Gardner's shoes, would you keep chasing your dreams, even when it feels like the world is against you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Continuing the story, Chris and his son go to the hospital to finally sell that medical device. The hospital, probably out of pity, agrees to buy it, giving Chris a small payday. Victory, right? Well, the next day, Chris runs to his internship, excited to dive into the financial world. During his lunch break, he bumps into Mr. Fromm, just a casual street greeting. But then, out of nowhere, there it is, the precious device being carried off by some random guy. Of course, Chris does what anyone would do, he chases after the guy like he's in a bad action movie. Except instead of a heroic catch, Chris gets hit by a car and loses one of his shoes. As if life wasn't already hard enough, he shows up to work looking like a fashion disaster, wearing only one shoe. Things don't improve when Chris tries his luck with the CEO, Mr. Ribbon. He manages to schedule a meeting, but in a tragic twist, his internship boss asks for a little favor, "Can you park my car?" And there goes the big opportunity. But hey, at least Chris and his son get invited to a football game with Mr. Ribbon. Well, sort of. During the game, Mr. Ribbon shatters Chris's hopes by politely saying, "Nice try, but no thanks." The only silver lining? Chris gets to network with other business big shots. But things take a turn for the worse when the IRS swoops in and drains Chris's bank account to collect unpaid taxes. Seriously, it's like rock bottom. To add salt to the wound, Chris's friend refuses to return the money he owes, leaving our hero and his son homeless once again. After more bad luck, Chris miraculously recovers the lost medical device, only to find it broken. Wonderful. Still, the hospital promises to pay as soon as he fixes it. Meanwhile, Chris and his son are left without a home, and in a heart-wrenching scene, they spend the night in a train station bathroom. In a desperate attempt to distract his son, Chris convinces him that the device is a time machine, transporting them to the era of dinosaurs. It's a sweet moment, but reality sets in when Chris silently cries as his son sleeps. As the days go by, Chris struggles to hold it all together. They nearly get turned away from a homeless shelter because the line is never ending, but fate finally cuts them a break, and they're let in. While there, Chris spends his time fixing the broken device, trying to crawl out of the financial hole. Interestingly, amid all this chaos, Chris learns to cut his conversations with clients short, survival skills when you're always racing back to the shelter line. What I found fascinating is Chris's unwavering focus, even as everything falls apart around him. That tunnel vision is what keeps him moving forward. There's a moment I would have handled differently, when Mr. Fromm asked Chris for $5 after the internship exam. Seriously, who asks someone clearly broke for money? Personally, I wouldn't have handed over those $5. However, what I would have done exactly the same is how he distracted his son with the time machine game in the train station. Sometimes, imagination is the only escape you can offer. Interestingly, Will Smith took this role to show his son, Jaden, that hard work and perseverance can take you far. Jaden even plays Chris's son in the movie, which made their on-screen bond feel even more authentic. If you enjoyed this, I've got 2 more amazing videos for you to check out. See you next time.
And I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect.